From UFOs to psychic powers and government conspiracies, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know.
Georgia pastor and wife charged with false imprisonment after people found in locked basement.
Yikes.
Now, yeah, if that isn't alarming, I'm not sure what's going on with you, but that's certainly, those words put together are alarming to me. And when you first get into reading about this story, it does seem quite alarming, but I'm going to make the argument throughout the rest of this segment, you guys, that maybe this isn't as bad and as scary as it appears on the surface. Just going to make that argument, and we'll see.
Okay.
We'll see
Yeah,
where it goes.
Okay?
Yeah. All right. So, how did this happen? Let's start there, perhaps. Well, according to this article, there was an emergency call made from a house in Griffin, Georgia, and when emergency services crews showed up, they attempted to gain access to the house, and they were unable to do so. They went around to a back door, which is near the garage area of this house, and there is a door to the basement. And they could tell that the person that was in need, that the emergency crews were sent out for, was inside the basement, but it was locked. And the people inside the basement could not open the door and escape. So the emergency crews made entry via a window in that basement, found the person in need, and were able to help them. Then they determined that, oh, wait, there are a lot more people in this basement than this one person who was in need of emergency services. And I believe they found 8 people in total locked. Yes, 8 people in total locked. And the authorities discovered very quickly that the people who were running this house were the people who were locked in the basement. It was Keith Bankston and Sophia Sim Bankston. They're a married couple, and they run a church which is called One Step of Faith Second Chance.
That name stuck out to me too. One Step of Faith Second Chance, and also the writer in me does have to point out that they wrote out 1, but they used the number sign for 2, which is just okay.
It's a bit strange.
There are bigger issues. I'm the first to say it. There are bigger issues. I just think it's a weird name.
This is what I'm trying to do, not pass judgment until we need to. Okay. So the name, I agree. I've got notes, but,
right.
But they've got a ministry that they run. Okay. And, it is certainly a bit strange that in this house that is associated with their ministry, there were 8 people locked in the basement. What we haven't told you yet is that all of the 8 people were either elderly, were wards of the state, had mental or physical disabilities. It was some combination of those. The ages were, I believe, between 23 and 65 of people who were kept there. Almost immediately upon being found in the basement, 6 of the individuals who were down there were basically, they were made to leave that housing situation, and they were put in other places. Again, many of these people were, quote, wards of the state. So they were probably put in some kind of facility. One person did choose to remain.
Have you seen the movie I Care a Lot, or We Care a Lot, I believe is what it's called? It's got Peter Dinklage in it and Rosamund Pike. It's about wards of the state and like people that are, that take advantage of that. Because, what happens when you become a ward of the state is you essentially are stripped of a lot of your civil rights or your civil liberties. You are you are kind of literally what it sounds like, a ward of the state, in that you are kind of held in many ways against your will. Like sometimes it's a psychiatric hold that's put on you or whatever it might be, and you lose a lot of autonomy. And the film is about some very opportunistic hucksters that take advantage of the system, but it is a pretty scary place to be.
This happens to one degree or another in many other examples. What we're talking about in the legal sense would be, I guess, an unlicensed care home because they didn't have the correct paperwork or zoning. And that's one of the contentions, at least when I was watching the story earlier, that's one of the contentions I think they're going to sort out in court, right?
Yes. that is the primary issue here. They were attempting to run a facility like this for people who needed housing, but they didn't have the correct paperwork filed. They didn't have the licenses to make it happen. The weird thing is that the police department and, I guess the state of Georgia, or I don't know, maybe it's just the county that's pressing charges against this couple. They're saying that it was false imprisonment. That they were keeping people imprisoned in the basement of this home. What, the attorneys for the couple are saying is that no, it was not false imprisonment. It was actually them housing people who needed a place to live. And it was literally faith outreach, allowing, people to stay in a place that has food, warmth, water, and all the things that a human needs. This is where it gets a little strange to me. We don't have all the information yet. We don't know if the individuals who are staying there were actually being taken advantage of financially in any way by this couple, by the Bankston couple. We don't know as of right now what all was happening to them. What type of care was being provided for them. We don't have a ton of details here about whether or not the facilities were all in working order, if the facilities were clean or what it was like. And we don't actually know for sure, and we can't prove right now, whether people were allowed to come and go as they please, as the Bankstons and their attorneys have said.
Right. You just hear the sentence "locked in a basement," and your mind kind of goes places,
Yeah, exactly. You can, you mentioned a video about the story. You can go to 11alive.com. That's 11alive.com. And you can find the story, Attorney Disputes Claims After Pastor Wife Face False Imprisonment Charges in Unlicensed Group Home Investigation. You can hear from Mr. Wimbush, who's the attorney for this couple, and you can get a little more information on it. You can also head on over to the website, onestepoffaithministriesinc.com.
Yeah.
And you can read about the couple. You can read about what they do. And by the way, this is what I wanted to bring up, Ben. The second chance thing, the second chance part of the name, has to do with outreach they do for those who have been incarcerated. So felons who are now attempting to re-enter the workplace and all, basically find their way forward, they do a lot of outreach there and attempt to help people, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, noble. Yeah. And this is like, this is a nonprofit. Second Chance program does have its nonprofit status. I do want to give a shout out to the lawyer because Bankston's lawyer's full name is Dexter Wimbish, which sounds like it is from a book. It doesn't sound like it's just, there's something that tickles me about Dexter Wimbish. I might use that as an alias going forward. But this is true. And I love that you're pointing out we being the public, don't have all the details here. Are these people, were they truly held against their will? Was their money, they were receiving state subsidies. Were these subsidies being managed by this couple? Which that itself is not inherently bad, especially if there is some sort of legal guardianship in play. We just don't know at this point. And I'm not, I take on spirituality, religion aside. I have a policy of never knocking anybody if they're sincerely trying to help other people. You know what I mean? So recidivism is just so high in the U.S.
100%. And a lot of these people, either won't find their way to the services that they need or, fall through the cracks of, government services. So sometimes it is helpful or necessary for people to take steps to help these folks, when they can't help themselves. There's something that strikes me just a little funny on the website in the bio for the pastor, for Curtis Bankston. It's just it's some pretty over-the-top, self-aggrandizing language. He's described as a biblical scholar and arguably one of the greatest visionaries and orators of his generation.
You can get away with anything if you slap arguably on it. That's arguably the best point I made today.
I would agree, arguably. But I don't know. Not throwing them under the bus yet before they've had their day, but like that struck me a little weird. But anyhow.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. That's a bit much. I don't know who wrote that.
I'm sure they wrote it themselves. I'm sure all the copy on here. That's when you write. Yeah, that's why you always have to writing your own bio.
Yeah,
is such a tricky dance, And also, the mission statement on their website is bringing people to Christ through the following acts, sort of headings: feeding the hungry, clothing the naked, housing the homeless, and helping the brokenhearted find a way out through Christ. All noble pursuits, but again, very like Christ-like. Almost like casting this couple in this, very holy kind of light, almost to the point of it feeling a little culty to me. I don't know.
Well, maybe, who knows? Look, here's the thing. I know I'm not directly helping anyone in, extreme need like that actively right now. And they may have been. So to me, that's just like, until there's all the information, a headline and story like, a bunch of people found in a basement because this pastor locked them up in there. It just is the kind of thing that makes me feel like that's kind of that's what we do now.
Yeah.
It's the thing that's going to get clicks. And that's the way people are going to think about this pastor and his spouse now in the ministry, even if it's found, months from now, a year from now, that no, they actually weren't. There was no false imprisonment. They just needed to get licenses.
But just a quote from the police report, it does say it is both frightening and disgusting to see the degree of which these individuals have been taken advantage of by people who are in a position of trust. That's in the police statement. So.
That is what the police say. I'm not saying that's wrong. We just have no context for what any of those descriptors, are talking about. Like, how were they taken advantage of? What do you mean?
And that's where we get to the idea of the court of public opinion, which is tremendously powerful. Retractions are never printed on the front page, right? And retractions are also often never covered by the news because they don't garner as much immediate visceral attention and reactions. Like, I always think this is a little bit of a different example, but a number of years ago, there was a story that was making the rounds about a person, a McDonald's customer, who sued the company for having coffee that was too hot. And late night talk shows definitely made a meal of this. The joke being a not super creative observation that coffee is often served hot, unless they say it's iced coffee. And I get it, because you got to do a show every day, so you got to have some jokes, right? But later you would find, if you bothered to look it up, that this was not a frivolous lawsuit. It just became treated as such based on the court of public opinion. So when you hear stories like this, and again, I love that you point this out, Matt, know that we are not making a judgment call here. What we're saying instead is there does need to be more information, and we're relaying to you the things that have been said already from the guy's attorney to the police, who did say they thought it was reprehensible.
And the attorney did acknowledge that they do not have that license, but that they were going to get it.
Yeah, he called it something like this. May have been in 11 Alive, or it may have been in WAGA, but the attorney said the case was a, quote, zoning issue that has become criminalized.
Yep, that's exactly what they said, and we'll just have to keep a lookout. I don't know, it's a weird one to bring to the table today, guys. It's just that headline really just stuck out to me so much that I wanted to have this discussion. And I just wonder, you, as you're, listening to this and reading news every day, like, just wonder what you think when you read some of the headlines and then you delve into the story and find out what it's actually about and what you do and you don't know and just how it makes you feel.